If you remember, the hurricane of 38 had no warning at all. And that's why so many lives were lost. So they were off lobstering and they broke down. And they disappeared. And in the Nassau Daily Review had it in the paper, that was long before Newsday, that they gave up all hope for the Baldwin fishermen who were lost about a week. And they found them, eventually towed them back to Baldwin, they fixed the engine, and they had survived eating fish and drifting. And that's why I figured when a guy asked me, about crossing the ocean, they want to know how fast I go and how fast their boat is. And I said, how does your boat drift? Because when it blows 50, 60, 70 knots, and the seas are breaking, you're going to lie your hull. In other words, you're shut down, you put your engines down for some drag, you might throw over an automobile tire with a rope just to keep it from broaching. And you got to have a boat that'll ride it out. You can't power into it. You can't run away from it. You just have to drift through it. So he drifted through it. And there's one other boat. It's on this freeport point stoppage. It's called the Lindy. The Lindy was built in 1927. She was named for Lindbergh. And if you remember 1927, Lindbergh made his famous flight, and the whole world was crazy about Lindy. So they named that dragger Lindy because the Freeport Point built it for themselves, put a crew on it, and they sent it out scalloping. And she also was offshore during the hurricane of 38. One of the few boats that survived and still continued to fish. So I knew the Verity had survived that hurricane, and that the Lindy, of course, is a completely different boat, but through a lot of luck, they survived the hurricane. We didn't expect to hit a hurricane, but when we were only about, I'd say, 200 miles from the Azores, there was a storm that started to come up from Bermuda. And instead of coming to the United States, it went up right up the middle of the Atlantic and hit the island of Flores, which was the island we were heading for. And there was no way at 6 knots that you could run away from it. So we secured everything, and after it got rough, we just laid down and let it all go. My biggest fear was that the stern of our boat was covered with canvas. Everything else was lexing, and the cabin was strong, the pilot house was a little low, but the stern was gotten down with 2 layers of canvas. My wife had said, why don't you take the gas tanks that you bought, paid a lot of money for, that you're not going to use, and fill them with air, and lash them on the stern deck. So we did that with a couple of the tanks. Now that gave terrific support to the canvas, because we found as we drifted, the seas would break over the stern. And my fear was if we lost the canvas, that would be the end, because the deck that covered the gas tanks, which Andy built in a hurry, wasn't watertight. And it wasn't tight because we had to get under there to get to the tanks all the time. So if we lost the canvas, the rear deck would have filled with water. I don't think we would have survived.
Tell them why you named the boat the Groverbuilt. Because you drove the trucks.
Peterbilt trucks?
You had Peterbilts.
I thought Peterbilt was a good name.
So Groverbuilt.
Yeah.
How long did you stop in the Azores?
My son Al got off the boat when we hit the island of Flores. He was through the hurricane with me. And Al and Don were not married. That's 25 years ago. I never saw him again. He got off that boat. I honestly didn't know where he was. And I told my wife, and I said, I quit. Al left, and I'm shot, and I've just had a couple of rough days. I don't think I'm going on. She said, you have to finish the damn trip. You come home without finishing, there's no living with you. So she said, stay right there, I'm sending Dante. And what did you say, Dante?
I don't.
So he didn't want to go. He's the smartest one in the family. So he flew over to Portugal and then had to go back from Portugal to the Azores because there was no direct flight at the time. And I introduced him to some of my French buddies that had sailed over. He went in every bar, in every island of the Azores. But with his luck, we started out and it was flat calm. We went all time, it was his birthday, August 31st, I told him I had a cold can of beer hanging out on a rope. So we had no beer, very little to drink and eat. But one time we were close to the coast, and he, 2 hours on, 2 hours off, running 24 hours a day. We started with 4-hour shifts, we couldn't stay awake. So one of us would go down below for 2 hours. And you couldn't see the other guy, but I'd yell up, "Are you awake? Are you cheating? Are you sleeping?" Because he's on autopilot. "No, I'm awake, Pop." So my 2 hours, he yells, "Okay, Pop, your turn." I get up, he comes out. There's a black wall in front of me with portholes going by. About as close as that wall right there. I said, "You bum!" Then we got to a Navy exercise. The Portuguese Navy had battleships lined up, and here we come along, and I want to cross through these ships. And we're on, by the way, most of the ships will talk to you on 16 VHF in the ocean, because these guys are looking for somebody to talk to. They're on a ship for days and days.
Tell them you're in the middle of the ocean with a 26-foot boat.
Yeah, we said we're a 26-foot outboard from New York. Hold on, stand by. I'll get somebody to speak English. So the Portuguese Navy said, "You may not pass through." So I started. I said, "We just came from the Azores. The people are so nice. It's such a wonderful hospitality, and nicest people in the world." And okay, that's Europe. Can you believe it? He says, "It looks like Block Island to me, Bob." But anyway, I don't want to stretch this out. There's a lot of things you can look at. There's some pamphlets you can take.
Another question.
Yeah, please.
Over there.
Yes.
Did you ever build a boat before the 26?
Only rowboats and service boats. We had service boats. This is our 60th year in business. Dante's been now, he got out of high school at 18. I said, "Look, you got to go to college. Everybody's got to go to college. You'll never amount to anything." And he said, "Pop, I'm going to run an agreement for you." So at 18, which is 32 years ago, what are you, 49? At 18, it was a real shaky high school diploma. He took over and he tackled jobs that I never would tackle. He said, "How did you learn? What the hell? Oh, don't worry. It's Pittsburgh, his initials are DW. Don't worry about it." Yes.
What did you do? You shipped the boat back?
Yeah, well, we wanted to go back to do some more canal riding, because the following year we went up from Barcelona to Marseille, up the Rhone River, across to the Rhine River, through Germany, to Denmark, the Rhine, the canal of Sweden, and Norway. We got to Oslo, Norway, and we put the boat on the birthplace of Ole Evinrude, which was up in the mountains above 65 miles inland. That was the whole purpose, to get back to the birthplace of the founder of Evinrude Motors. So we told the guy, it was a Norwegian guy, by the way, his name was actually Olaf Evinrude. And Ole Evinrude was really Ole Olsen. When he came to this country, they changed their names. A lot of them did that. And he said there were so many Ole Olsens, he called himself Ole Evinrude. And Evinrude, without the E, means the good land in their local language. Both stayed there 5 years, and we couldn't get back. So I told the guy, "Ship it home." And we worked out a deal. He said, "I'll take the motors off and keep the motors, and you'll be square for the shipping and the storage for 5 years." So I said, "Good enough." And he said, "I'll send it home the cheapest way." So it was in the fall. I'm coming home on the Verrazano Bridge, and I'm driving a van, and I'm pretty high, and my wife is asleep. And I look over, and here comes a container ship. One of those monsters, like 100 containers. As it goes under the bridge, they had left out a container on the top. All of these roofs showed, except this place was empty. And there's this funny looking shape sitting right in there. It was 5 boats. Under the bridge, just so I don't know.